Two and one.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are live in two groups in YouTube. That is a new thing. I'm Devin with Homeschool House Calls. We're with Susan with Homeschooling Supermoms. And our special guest today is Karla Williams. She is an author. She has wrote awesome books. I've got several on my shelf, and I've got a new one to read next week. But we are so glad you're here, Karla.
Yes.
Mhm.
We are excited to have you here. We're so excited to hear about your new book.
I know. She wrote Homeschooling Gone Wild, which half of it is your story, and the second half is basically giving you steps on how to unschool. And I love it. I have gotten so many ideas out of there just for for my kids. And I'm really excited about the teen book because
Awesome.
I have teens.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me.
So, Carla, I'm going to ask for you to introduce yourself to our viewers.
Well, I can do that. I'm Karla Marie Williams, and I am a wife of almost 24 years, married to Superman, and I have six amazing kids, two of which we graduated or launched last year in 2020, which was interesting. And I have four more children that are unschooling here at home, all teens and preteens. And I'm just really excited to share with you what has worked for us and what hasn't.
Fantastic. So, I'm ready to start hearing about that.
Okay. Yeah, I know. So let's start with Homeschooling Gone Wild because I know that's really they kind of need that one first before they jump into Teens Unleashed. So
Yeah.
start with that one.
Well, originally I wrote Homeschool Going Wild because I found myself on social media answering the same questions over and over again. And my original tactic was to start a homeschool YouTube channel that would answer just about any question anybody would have on the topic. And I'll put out my disclaimer first. We don't consider ourselves radical unschoolers. There are a few things that we continue, like chores. As a massive family of eight, they are necessary for us.
Yes.
Um, but I will say that unschooling has changed the way that we parent. Just our level of autonomy that we try to give to our children. But as far as that book, it really is. It kind of starts off helping you understand where we're coming from and what dilemmas we faced in starting our homeschool journey, which was insurmountable problems because I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't have any support and I didn't have anybody else that I knew that was doing it. But once I got a hold of something that worked for us and I started to see my children flourish, I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I decided to write about it. And so that's what the first book was. It debuted in September 2018 and has not stopped selling since, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
um, but it really just shows you how we do what we do, the things that have worked for us, the mistakes that I've made, so that there's some humility in that book because I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm sure I'll continue to. Um, but it's just really been a blessing to a lot of families. And so, in the back of that book, I actually promised that once I was done, that I would come back and do a book that focused on the teen years into young adult. I hadn't gotten there yet. My oldest ones were kind of like early teens. So I hadn't really been through the whole teen thing yet. And I really for me, writing and speaking about something, I feel like I have to have mastered it. I refuse to
Mhm.
walk to pretend to be an expert in an area that I don't feel like I've mastered. And so I wanted to wait. And the time came where I felt like, you know what, I have a lot to share now. Now I have five teens and one preteen. And wow, do I have a lot to share. And so I thought this is the time to write the sequel to Homeschool Gone Wild, which is the one we're talking about today, which is Teens Unleashed.
Yeah.
And this book kind of picks up where Homeschool Gone Wild left off. What do I do? A lot of parents think that unschooling or interest led learning, I kind of use those interchangeably,
Mhm.
but that it's cute, and that they can kind of see themselves doing it with their younger children. But come 13, 14, we start to panic, what they call
Mhm.
periodic unschooler panic. And suddenly it's like, oh my God, we revert back to all of the things that we said
Yeah.
we didn't want to do because of
Mhm.
fear, because of pressure, because of checklists and what everybody says our kids should know at every age and every stage. And and we kind of lose that freedom and that autonomy that we've given to our kids. And so
Mhm.
not only are we confused at that point, then our kids are confused. And
Yeah.
before you know it, it's just a whole rat race starting all over, looking for the curriculum that's going to change their life forever.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
That's one thing I say a lot is curriculum's a tool.
Yes.
It's only a tool. It's not and I think that comes from maybe our public school backgrounds. If the mamas are like me, you were in public school. And I know when I had my youngest, I reverted back to school at home. And we
Hmm.
had never done school at home, but I was in a bad place. And that's what I reverted to.
Yeah.
And, so everybody does it. It's not, I think it's a very normal thing when you're stressed or you switch levels, like you move up into high school. It's like you start panicking.
Yeah, you absolutely lose it. Now we this is our 12th year. We're
Hmm.
going to start our 12th year of homeschooling, learning at home. But our eighth, going on our ninth year of unschooling.
Uh-huh.
And so we've been doing this a long time. And I tell you, I cannot imagine anything else. And one thing that totally drives me nuts is when a person says, I can't do this. I'm overwhelmed. Why don't we just unschool? I'm thinking to myself, you have no idea what
Yeah,
you
and they
just said.
probably
It
don't.
is not, when people look at it as the easy route or look at it as, I just don't want to do this anymore.
Hmm.
Um, the view and the mindset shift hasn't taken place properly because I
Yeah.
have never worked harder than when I've had six children going in six different directions that needed six different sets of resources and encouragement and research and opportunities than when I had all six sitting down learning the same thing at once.
Hmm.
And so it is a lot of work. Now that doesn't, everybody doesn't have six children, so I get it. But what I'm saying is that it's not a hands off
Yeah.
idea. It's not unparenting, so to speak. It's not the easy route or the easy way out that a lot of people look at it as. And a lot of times I use the words interest led learning because the UN, the un freaks people out.
I think you're right, Carla. I think a lot of people misunderstand what unschooling really means.
Mhm.
And I think it's great that you're bringing some clarity to that because it doesn't mean, like you
Yeah.
just said, it doesn't mean hands off parenting or hands off schooling.
Mm-mm.
It really means following the passion that your children have for a
Mhm.
specific topic or subject or
Yeah.
area in their lives.
And as those things change and move and evolve because
Hmm.
you know, um, and it's very intentional. I am constantly on the lookout and on the search for new opportunities for them to get their hands in something that's going to give them a life experience. And then to be able to see the math in that and the science in that, and they read about it and they write about it and they talk about it, and we, you know, it's so multi-layered and multifaceted.
Yeah.
And yes, I've had to do that with six kids. Now all teenagers who are quite specific as far as what direction they're going. And so, you
But I
know,
think that's wonderful
mhm,
because they feel like they have a direction.
mhm,
And I mean, that's a beautiful thing because I find that, my 19-year-old who has homeschooled, and he's a wonderful kid, but even now he's not always sure where he's going.
mhm,
And I have to reassure him that it's okay. Most people don't know where they're going when they first get there. They have, it takes time. But I love that your kids know or have an idea of where they want to go.
And we do, but that doesn't mean it won't change. And that doesn't mean it won't morph into something else more complex or, go off in a slightly different direction.
Yeah.
All of them have done that. I have, I have children that have been specific since the age of 10. And then I have children that have, one of my daughters who has been interested in animal science, um,
Hmm.
medicine, performing arts, being an FBI agent. Now she's into fashion design. And it's so interesting because they're all over the place. But you know what? One thing I tell parents, there is no investment in time, energy, or money that you're going to make that's going to be wasted because it's all going somewhere. You may not see where it connects now.
Hmm.
You may say, what are all these random things and what can we focus on? If you start with low cost and or zero cost resources like the library or the internet, community programs and events, things of that nature, then you can give them a chance to get their feet wet in all of those areas. And before you know it, either those things are going to come together or
Hmm.
a few things are going to start to stand out. And so I wouldn't be afraid if you say, oh, my child doesn't know what they want to do. That's okay. We have adults that don't
It's
know what
okay.
they want to do.
I know.
That's
And
perfect.
how many of us actually are doing what, like, I graduated high school, went to college. How many people are actually doing what they studied for? So, I think it's pretty cool. As
Yes.
long as you're
I was a
moving forward.
zoology major, pre-med zoology.
That's fun, though.
Yeah,
So you
and
can imagine.
yeah,
That's
and even if
fun.
you look at us as adults, our interests still change also. I
Yeah.
mean,
Absolutely.
maybe not as much as our children's interests change, but
Mhm.
aren't there times that you go out there and you explore new options,
Yeah.
and so it's a great time to do it while your kids are young. Like you
Well,
just said, how does the math tie into that, and the reading and the writing and the exploration and so it's great. And to
yeah.
do it with 6,
Sit in my lap.
that's amazing.
It's a lot.
It is. Absolutely.
Oh my God. I'm distracted. I have a little that I'm not quite sure what's going on in her mind, but she's my happy surprise. I
Awesome.
love her. She's a good girl. I'm not quite sure what's going on. Um, but let's see. My mind went blank. Susan, come up with a question. My mind went blank.
Okay, so we've talked about the first book and how it leads into the second
Yes.
book and how you made a commitment to then come back and write a book about teens, and that is where this book came
Yes.
from. And so tell us a little bit about this trail that we move into Teens Unleashed.
Okay. So, like I said before, a lot of people panic around this time when their kids start getting older
Yeah.
and they revert back to old ways or they adapt to new ways that they never said they would do. They were convinced that unschooling was for them, and then suddenly they were shaken by the teen years. And so I wanted to give them an idea of what our days look like, how to view and change how you see what your children are choosing to do, how to see how many topics and subjects are covered in a day when they're just being lazy or they're not getting things done or they only did this today. So you'll see a lot of that in the book, really on mindset shift. Like, how do we look at that? Where's the learning in that? And then I walked them all the way through how our days look with our current four unschoolers. And then closer to the end, we talk about how I created transcripts for unschoolers that
Thank you,
have been
awesome.
able to be used for post high school purposes, all kinds. So, how to create those, how to keep good records, especially if you are in a high rec state, such as several states on the East Coast, where record keeping is
Hmm.
paramount. You either have to take tests or you have to have a review. How to do that? I don't live in a state like that, but I do it anyway because that's just my personality. I'm kind of, for my own, whenever I get periodic unschooler panic, I can look at my records and see we're doing just fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I do the same thing. It gives me that peace of mind.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um,
how we craft our, they will learn how we craft their years and their days during those teen years, how our children are in control of their time, um, where accountability comes in when it comes to the goals that they make for themselves, goal setting and allowing them to make their goals. Um, and then, how we uh, issue their diplomas, how we celebrate, um, just the whole shebang. What does high school or the teen years look like
look
for
like
a schooler in an intentionally unschooling home?
that's
Uh,
amazing.
so I think that a lot of people will get a lot out of it. A lot of questions will be answered, a lot of questions that are kind of elusive, um, that are kind of scary because it's kind of hard for me to tell you how to unschool your children when the dynamics of your family are different, the interests, the passions, the logistics, where you live, how you live. I mean, I have people that follow me from Australia and Canada and the UK,
Hmm.
um, some throughout Africa and Mexico. And so a lot of things are going to look different. It depends on your family and a lot of the dynamics involved. But one thing is true, and that's the mindset. And so I spent a lot of time in the beginning of the book talking about that mindset, how to think about this so that
Hmm.
you can forge your own path with your child and don't feel like you have to mimic my path.
Yeah.
This is how it looks for me, and this is how it may look for some other unschoolers. But this is how we think, and that thinking will get you on the path for your family.
I think that is fantastic because I think that like we've all talked about, the three of us have talked about that when you hit those right before those high school years, it's like this
Yeah.
big time panic happens and you're
Yeah.
like no matter which homeschool style you choose to follow when you hit those high school years, it's still that same kind of panic thing going on. But what I love about what you're doing and sharing, Carla, is that a lot of us can't envision because like Devin said, a lot of us have gone to public school or private school. We can't envision what does unschooling look like through the high school years. So it's so nice to know that someone has blazed the trail and then shares so that we can learn and really kind of do some discovery on our own, what will work well with our own family dynamics and as well as with each individual child that we're working with.
And
So
there's
thank you
two
for that.
things
Yeah.
that I think are important for those that are listening and are new to the topic or kind of on the fence about the topic. Number one, no one is forcing you to choose one way of doing things.
Yes.
If there's anything that you get out of my books, I want you to understand that your child needs to be a partner in what it is, what, how, and when they learn. And if you give them some autonomy, maybe you don't want to unschool completely, but if you give them autonomy and you allow them to have a say in some of those aspects of their education, you're going to get a much better, much
Yeah.
happier homeschooler because we all want to be a part of things that are taking place in our own lives, right? We don't want anybody telling us, everything. We know as parents, they do need guidance. So I get that. But making your children part of those decisions, helping them create their goals for themselves, these are the kinds of life skills they're going to have to be able to exercise when they leave your home. And so why not get them used to being in the driver's seat in their own lives now?
Yeah.
You're still a facilitator, you're still a guide, you're still,
Mhm.
discipling them, but you want to make sure that you give them some say so, and they'll, respecting their desires, respecting how they learn, and the things that they're passionate about, and not belittling their interests, those kinds of things. And then, um, also, there's a myth that, unschooling is great if you don't want to go to college. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. And it's simply inaccurate. You have unschoolers go to college at the same rate as homeschoolers, public schoolers, and private
Yeah.
schools. It's a choice. And one thing that we present to our children is one of many choices. You'll see in the book I share every possible choice that your child and direction your child can go, and what you can do to prepare them for those particular areas, those directions.
Yeah.
Um, and then you just have so many options available to your kids when it comes to learning, that I just encourage you not to put a box around it, not to say this is the only way, not to say that, college is the only way you can be successful or
Mhm.
financially successful. It's simply not.
Yes.
And we see that in people all over the world that have impacted the world in ways
Hmm.
that we all dream of, right?
Yeah.
And they're they are highly educated without a degree.
Yeah.
So the whole idea that it's the only way for every single child to go is something that we need to stop presenting to our children, that there
Yeah.
are many directions for them to go and to reach and become who God called them to be. Um, and that's what I want for my children. That's what I want for the children of those that follow and that read my books, that they'll be happy and healthy and follow the things that set their
Yes.
heart on fire.
And that's one thing I always appreciate about you. We became friends about 2 years ago
Mhm.
when I needed somebody to teach on unschooling record keeping.
Yeah.
And I have loved, I mean, because we're Facebook friends. I've loved following how much joy is in your house.
Oh.
And I love your spirit. I love your just the snippets I see of her kids. She's not like real out there with her kids, but she does tell what they're doing, and there's just so much joy there, and it's just enjoyable to watch. And she brings up a good point. Even if you're not unschooling, I mean, I recommend her book all the time to people. It's one of the ones that I recommend when somebody says, "What book should I read?" I said that it's in the list because there's so much you can take away, even if you're not going to unschool. There's so much positive things that help you think outside the box as a homeschooler. Because as a homeschooler, we're kind of outside the box anyway.
Right. So just take what we're saying.
And it's like there's just levels of being outside that box. But
Levels of rebellion, right?
exactly,
But I
I
also
don't
think
think
it's
of it
hard
that
to think
way.
outside that box
It is.
because, especially now with COVID, we're all like it's pretty much staying in our homes or, or socialization's limited. And
Mhm.
so to have another resource, a
Yes.
book that you can go to that says, hey, you don't have to do it this way, but let me help you think outside the box,
Yes.
is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, and I think homeschooling gone wild is a excellent resource for any new homeschooler. I have a feeling this one's going to be right up there with it. I mean, since I know her, I haven't read it yet. I usually try to pre-read stuff before I talk to an author, but I have not read it. I just got it, so it was released this week, and it's
Right.
real funny because I followed her launch party the other night. And okay, what now? I have two copies on my shelf already. I had got one for me and somebody else, and then I won more, and I sent them to somebody else. So it's like you if you know me, you may get a copy of this, but I just think they're just great resources. And I mean, I don't think I told you that it's one of the ones that I list out all the time. I said, this is
Thank
one to
you.
read because I think there's just a lot of great takeaway when you're a new homeschooler so that you can think outside of that box that growing up in the public school gives you. I mean, because it does. I mean, like I've said before, when I had the baby, we had a little bit of tough time. She was I don't want to say she was a difficult baby, but it was a difficult first year. Some babies are. And I reverted to traditional school at home, and my kids had never seen that before. So they're like, "What is this?" Because we were very Charlotte Mason, very easygoing, very morning basket, and then suddenly they're doing online school at home.
Yeah.
We have
One
moved out of that. We have moved out, but that first year was rough.
I can
But
imagine.
though, Devin, you just expose them to another way another
Whole
learning
nother way of
style, and that's okay.
Yes, and honestly, one of mine thrived with it. She thrived. She's actually doing pre-cal now. That was her jam. I have others who are probably going to be more unschooling.
Mhm.
And y'all didn't know that, did y'all? There's a few that's more unschooling, very relaxed. So we have moved that way with other ones. So I'm like, I have my levels.
Me
See,
too. I
you
have a
can move
feeling
back and forth with what works.
all of my children, kind of the younger four that I have at home, all they've ever known is unschooling.
Isn't that
And
awesome?
so if you even think about throwing something traditional their way, they're like,
What is this?
like, what manner of, what is this? And so the older two, they kind of had a mix of things early on until
Hmm.
the schooling. And my oldest daughter, who's 18 now, she thrived at it. She did very well. She's the one that wrote and published 4 books. And
Hmm.
my oldest son did not do well in the beginning at all because I had to figure him out. He was always roaming around and messing with everybody else and what they were doing. They're perfectly fine, doing their projects or whatever they're doing. And he was the wild card. And I couldn't figure out why. And it's because of the way that he thinks. He's highly gifted and he was bored still and he needed some direction. And so what we did is we made sure that we allowed him to choose. He wanted to learn what, how, and when he wanted. So he liked the freedom of that. But
Yeah,
what he used to learn it needed to be traditional. So he
yeah.
thrived with online courses. He thrived with textbooks. But this is the one who's in aviation now.
This
And
sounds
so
like my
he took
Juliana.
chemistry, he took algebra, he took all of those classes because he knew he was passionate about what he wanted to do and he knew what that
That's
career
awesome.
path required of him. I don't have any other kids like that.
Hmm.
Everybody else is like, lay off, let me do my thing. And as long as they're productive and they're working toward their goals that they create for themselves, I allow them to do that.
That's awesome.
Very connected with what it is that they're doing. But I wanted to let people know with Teens Unleashed, make sure they know which book I'm talking about. We have a collection of adult unschoolers that we interviewed for this book.
Oh, awesome.
And two of them are second generation unschool moms.
That's
And
marvelous.
so, yeah, and then you have, I think, maybe 5 or 6 um, teenagers between the age of 14 and 19
Hmm.
who we interviewed who are just rocking it. And so I wanted to make sure I didn't want to just share my story.
Hmm.
For me to just share my story and everybody can be like, well, it works great for you. But I wanted to show this works for great for a lot of people. And all of these kids are, their passions are varied, where they live, their lifestyle is varied. Um, the dynamics of their family and their interests are all varied to show a very good, um, examples of how this can work for a lot of people. So,
Yeah, and I love how you said, one of your children was really in the books and kind of that
Hmm.
more traditional type of schooling, and yet you have other children that are truly taking the unschooling path. And
mhm,
I think that's one of the things I really love about homeschooling is that you really can look at your child and what is that best fit for your child? What's
mhm,
the best fit for your household? And that's what you need to look at. And I will say I love hearing about unschooling. I wish I had been more familiar with it earlier on, because I love how you can follow the child's interests and really do. I mean, it's a great way to do career discovery.
mhm,
Like you said, they'll either fall in love with it or they might find things that, that might not be the perfect fit for me. Maybe I need to
exactly.
go down this other trail over here of being a fashion designer, or this trail over here in performance, or just different ways. And
Well,
I
why
think that's a really
wait?
neat thing.
Yeah, why wait till college to decide? Oh, I've paid thousands of dollars and I don't think I want to do it anymore.
Exactly.
And look at how many of us in our adult lives have done that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Zoology and sciences has benefited me as a homeschool mom because
Yeah.
we are a science heavy family. Like we love science, probably because I do. So, but and he was. Let me say this: unschooling just does not mean the absence of structure. It's just a different kind. It's structure that is created by the learner
Mm-hmm.
versus a checklist, arbitrary checklist that we print off online, right? So it's not absence of structure. It's just that the learner is creating their own structure that works for them. And then also, like my oldest son, he's 17. He has been focused on aviation since he was basically 10, flying planes since he was 12. He's a licensed avionics professional.
Mm-hmm.
He has all kind, is getting all kinds of certifications in aviation and electronics. And he was very much an unschooler. He had the he had the autonomy to learn what, when, and how he wanted. His he chose to use um, traditional resources, but he was in the driver's seat. And I think that a lot of people think that unschooling is void of any kind of curriculum. Well, if you have a child that wants it, it's still unschooling because you're following what the child wants to do. And
Yeah.
so there's so many myths and so many misconceptions about what it is and what it looks like. And it really, the main thought, the main thing to think about is, who is my child? If there's only one of them on the planet and they're unique, then their education should be as unique as they are. And that
Yeah.
means that they have the ability to have a say so in what, how, and when they learn.
Mm-hmm.
I also love how it puts them on a trail of independent learning
Mhm.
and independent accountability. Accountability, of course, as the parent, you're looking and you're holding them accountable, but there's also that self accountability that they need to look at, because we all, usually at the first of the year, we all set these goals for ourselves, and oftentimes we don't hold ourselves to them. But again, that unschooling, that follow blazing the trail, you can help keep yourself accountable, as well as accountable to mom and dad as well.
Right.
So we have just a couple of questions that are popping up. First, you're getting some greetings from people, and people saying thank you for presenting. And we've got a question here that someone's asking us, and while we cannot see the people that are the individual person that's viewing us.
On Facebook or on YouTube, but we can't answer questions. We can see the comments.
Yes. So we want you to know that no, we cannot see you physically, but we can, like Devin said, we can see your comments. So we wanted to, sorry, Karla, I just wanted to kind of give some clarity there as someone's asking us some questions. So focusing back in on you there. Again, getting some great comments. And again, this is such an interesting topic. And I can't tell you, when I hit those high school years, I was panicked, and unschooling was, I thought unschooling meant you are not schooling your children, and have since learned that I very much misunderstood what unschooling was. And I really stuck toward that traditional avenue, but I love the, the unschooling avenue where you can take your child down where their interests are, and follow that trail.
Yeah.
So I'm taking a peek, Devin, too. I see.
Yeah,
I think you're
I'm
picking up the
watching.
comments. I'm
I'm
picking up the
watching
comments too. Going.
this question. Valerie, that's awesome. She said she had a good friend of hers that pioneered unschooling in Texas. That's awesome to have friends who pioneer. I love my veteran homeschoolers, and I love my pioneers. They're awesome.
Yeah, I love the idea of Karla's book. And bundle that with tapping into your experienced homeschool mamas, to tap into them and use them as a resource. So now you've got a couple of different resources to
Yeah.
kind of help you decide what type of homeschooling journey you and your family and your children want to be on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, so I want to move to the future. I noticed some books coming up later in the year. But I got really excited they were coming. That's what's so funny. I was like, I haven't even read this one yet, but I was like, I think one is called Unschool Yourself for Teens, and one is for
Yeah.
moms.
So, Teens Unleashed was my sixth book in the last 30 months. So 2.5 years. This is my sixth book, and then by the end of this year, we plan on, or but we too, because my husband is definitely involved. But we plan on writing and publishing four more this year. One on marriage,
Mhm.
couples inspiring each other to reach their dreams, and so it's a theme. All of my books are headed in the same direction. I do have Unschool Yourself for Teens, and that's going to be kind of a guide for teens to understand their parents' need for their accountability during unschooling.
Mhm.
So how to be able to be a teen, learn independently, keep track of your learning, um, check in with your parents, and where to find the resources you want, how to get hands-on experiences in areas that you want to test out and see if they're for you. All those kinds of things, but just
Mhm.
helping the teen themselves, because most of my books have been geared toward the parent. And I thought, you know what? Teens are more capable and they understand more than we give them credit for.
Yes, they
And I
do.
think that putting a resource in their hands and a resource in the parents' hands will allow them to be able to really excel. And so then I also have one coming out called Unschool Yourself for Moms. And that is about really about moms doing things for themselves, moms thinking outside the box and knowing that they can accomplish the purpose that God put on the inside of them in the midst of motherhood, that they can
Mhm.
do big things too, that they don't always have to put things on hold. And we do talk about seasons and timings and things of that
Yeah,
nature, but it's specifically for moms to reach the next level in whatever it is that they want for their own lives.
that's awesome.
And then the last one, launching in December, is called Inhale Peace, Exhale Fear. And it's really a spiritual journey, kind of a sequel to the book that I had written before called Let Go, A Control Freak's Fight for Peace. So
Mhm.
kind of it's a continuation of how to go through difficult moments and experiences in life and come out on top with peace versus fear. Um, so I'm really excited about
I
all of
am excited. I was excited when I saw it all. Valerie had a question. She was asking about how to help her son receive a high school diploma. It really depends on what state you're in. If you want to PM me or Susan, if you're not, I actually I can't tell if you're on Facebook or if you're in YouTube. But if you PM me, I can actually help you find out that information. But it's just kind of hard to do it without knowing what state you're in. But anyway, so
So it's exciting that all these books are available, and I want people to know that, Karla, I think you are so inspiring and so uplifting, and that if people haven't had the chance to get to know you, and if you are looking for some inspiration for your high school journey, then I do hope that they'll check out your books
absolutely.
and your Facebook groups.
and I do
And
want to mention y'all have a publishing company now.
Yes.
And you do boot camps for, if there's some mamas out here listening that you want to write a homeschool book or not a homeschool book. I mean, Carla's an awesome resource for y'all.
They can, if they want to purchase any of our books, learn more about what I do, or if they want to sign up for any of the boot camps, they can go to my website and they can access everything from there. My website is www.karlaMarieWilliams, Karla with a K, mariewilliams.com, and
Mhm.
you'll be able to access everything there. Very user friendly website.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming in to
Thank
this.
you for having me.
I'm just
it's
excited.
wonderful information. I'm excited to get my hands on Teens Unleashed and your
Yeah,
future books that are going to be coming out this
I
year.
know it's going to be great. But
Awesome.
anyway, we're going to wrap up, mamas. We don't want to overextend ourselves for y'all or Carla. And y'all know where to find her. You can get her books on Amazon. You can get her books on her website, I believe.
Yes.
And I will make sure I edit everything and make sure you can find it. But we are very grateful she came.
Yes. Thank you so much, Karla. This has been wonderful.
Okay. Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody. Bye.